of post-traumatic slavery disease. Okay. And with that comes that self-hatred. With that comes that deep-seated lack of trust. With that comes also a deep-seated sense of hopelessness. So we don't want any American African who does not have the revolutionary spirit of our Pan-African ancestors to go back to the continent and infect continental Africans or infect our repatriation efforts with their negative spirit. So we have to make sure that we are selective about who goes back to Africa. I do not endorse a wholesale repatriation. It should be scientific, it should be selective. Everyone who is a part of it should be required to undergo some re-Africanization classes. And I think that they also understand that they come to Africa on a probationary basis, that they can be expelled, they can be sent back to America for engaging in anti-African thought or behavior.
All right. Having said all that, that's I didn't think about it in that fashion, but yes, a lot of us Africans here in America, we do need some form of revitalization when it comes to our psychology, because a lot of Dick Gregory said it best. He said it's hard to be a Black man in society and not have a white racist mentality. So we don't want to go somewhere where it's like we're here right now and we're being a fish out of water, and then we expect, oh, if we just go to the motherland, then yeah, we'll be all right. We got to get right within ourselves first, psycho-spiritually and psycho-spiritually speaking. So we want to make sure that is correct first before we bother taking our bad habits somewhere else. So I definitely concur with that. So having said all that, how has the school to prison pipeline system, you call it, you coined the term prison preparation system, affected our children domestically and internationally?
One thing that I have had the unfortunate experience of learning about is the fact that right now across the world, despite the fact that Africa has been independent, at least in name, for approximately 50 years. If we look at Ghana, of 57 to 07 was 50, 17 was 60, 18, 19, so 64 years for Ghana. I would say on average, if you look at all the countries, because Ghana was first, let's just say about 50 years. So despite the fact that most African nations have been independent for on average 50 years, many Caribbean nations longer than that. Those of us in America, end of the Civil War, about 150 years ago. Despite having been out of colonization and slavery for a half century to a century and a half, most African children in the world are still educated by way of a white curriculum and pedagogy to this very day. It is amazing that when I go to Jamaica, Turks and Caicos, Bahamas, Trinidad, Suriname, Cuba, UK, Canada, and I've been everywhere except every continent except Australia, and I'm sure it's no different there. Most African children in the world are educated on a European ethos. So we should not be surprised to see that most African adults still behave like coons, because how can you not act like a coon if your intellectual and social foundation was engineered by your oppressor? And I am still in awe. I am still in awe of having traveled around the world, and I've only encountered maybe two dozen independent African schools in the whole world. And so when you talk about the psychoacademic Holocaust, you're talking about a global system by white supremacy to destroy the revolutionary spirit of African children, to lay them docile and ineffective in their own communities upon reaching adulthood. And I thank God for my global travels, because had I not had the benefit of my global travels, I would not have learned that what they do to the Black child here, they do to the Black child everywhere.
That's deep, brother. That's deep. White supremacists have a grapple hold on the whole global world. So it's like in Africa, you see a lot of human trafficking going on and things of that sort, and people bypass because it's not often talked about. So we've been raped, pillaged, and stripped of our native tongue. And you are right. Just taking one of our predecessors, for example, W.E.B. Du Bois is a prime example of going through the schooling of, Harvard, being the first Black grad, and doing significant things as far as academia is concerned. And, that system kind of took over his mind to some degree, but then later on, he was able to transform and metamorphosize himself into a better, more Pan-Afrikanist thinker. So you are more than right on this subject. So who better else than to ask than you, my brother? So with that being said, I would like to move forward to the next question.
Let me add something. Let me add, if I may.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
People often ask me, where do we start? We have a lot of work to do as African people in order to resurrect ourselves. Where do we start? The two most important places to start, the two most critical places to start, are with education and economics.
Okay.
Education, because you have to prepare the children in the art of liberation. You have to prepare the children in the art of nation management. You have to socialize the children to be able to work with each other. You have to socialize them to get along. You have to socialize them to overcome the petty differences that have handcuffed us for more than a century. You have to teach them why they need to be free and why they should want to be free. Believe it or not, most Black children, most Black people have never been taught the importance of freedom. They have never been taught the importance of liberation. They're simply born and taught why they should bow to the oppressor. They're born and taught why they should work for the white power structure. They're never given an independent consciousness. Our children are groomed, socialized, and indoctrinated to uphold the system that is destroying them. So you have to start with education, because if you do not recreate African consciousness, if you do not liberate the mind, you'll never liberate the reality. There will never be a free there will never be a free American African community if there's not a free American African consciousness. The consciousness precedes the physical reality. So we often put the cart before the horse, because we say we need our own schools and we need our own supermarkets and we need another Black Wall Street. You're not going to get that until you free this. The consciousness must be liberated first. If you don't liberate the consciousness, you don't liberate anything else. And the reason why we have to deal with the economics apart with the education, because if you liberate the consciousness of a Black child and you do not teach them how to earn a living, if you do not teach them how to acquire industry and build nation and to be economically and politically independent, a liberated Black child without an economic opportunity is headed for poverty. A liberated Black child without an economic opportunity is headed to poverty, because the white power structure will not hire them. They're too much of a threat. So you can not only liberate the consciousness of the Black child, you have to make sure that Black child knows how to earn a living, because a liberated Black child can never work for the white power structure. So you have to make sure you liberate them, and then you provide them with an economic opportunity. And let me say this, the reason economics is so critical is not just because we need to feed each other. and house and clothe each other, but the violence in our community is a direct result of the economic devastation of our community. Black men are killing each other out of stress. I don't care if it's drug dealing. I don't care if it's pills. I don't care if it's guns. I don't care if it's cars. I don't care if it's armed robbery. It's all related to a lack of economic opportunity. All of it. They're fighting each other over territories and other hustles because they can't earn a decent living through the established power structure. So if we want to reduce crime, you got to build economics. You want to save the Black family, you got to build economics. Most Black homes had two parents until 1970. Most Black, from the beginning of slavery until 1970, most Black homes had two parents. So 100 years after slavery, we were still married. It wasn't until the 70s when they economically castrated the Black community by destroying the industrial base. Most Black men worked in the industrial sector in the 40s, 50s, and they were factory workers. So they took out all the factories, and then they took out all the industrial building programs in the high school to make sure you didn't have the skills to pay the bills. And the other piece about economics, you cannot build a proud Black community if that Black community can't do for itself. You're not going to be proud to be Black if being Black doesn't have any benefits. It can't just be we were great. It can't just be we built the pyramids. It can't just be we're melanin. It can't just be we're the oldest people. Children today need opportunity. And I don't care how much history you feed our babies, if you don't give them economic opportunity, they will go to the power structure and get it. One of the reasons we have more sellouts than any other community in the world is because we don't give our children opportunities the way other communities can give their own opportunities. A Chinese kid can get a job from the Chinese community. A Jewish kid can get a job from a Jewish community. A Mexican kid can get a job from a Mexican community. A Black child cannot get a job from his own community. So how are you going to expect loyalty when you have not provided opportunity? Opportunity breeds loyalty, and neglect will breed betrayal.
Wow, brother, you said a mouthful. You actually jumped ahead of the question that I was going to ask you. But I want to add to that what you said. I believe I agree with everything you said. I just wanted to add or piggyback to it. I think we also should have a strong vanguard base too, because with Black Wall Street, you saw me call it race riots. It really wasn't a race riot. That's just a play on words. It was just white people attacking Black people on the bill. Really domestic terrorism, if I put it bluntly, you know. So yeah, and then I wanted to also say too, it's easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men. So you are 100% on that, because the late great Frederick Douglass said that. So my question was, how do Black people as a whole change the system and keep it accountable? But you kind of, you know, hit on the head with that, with your answer. So with that being said, let's
also,
okay, sir.
Good brother, and I apologize for cutting you off. But the other point, Black people, as it relates to the American power structure, we have to decide how much we're willing to sacrifice for freedom, justice, and equality. Because you must pay, as Frederick Douglass, for everything you get. Nothing's free, especially freedom. Nothing's free, especially freedom. And so we have to decide, do we just want to have some riots? Because riots don't last too long. It's an emotional temper tantrum. Do we want a revolt? We just want to demand changes from the system. Do we want a rebellion where we stop participating in the system? Do we want reformation where we think we can change the system? Or do we want a revolution, which is where you destroy the system You dissect it piece by piece, block by block, inch by inch, rule by rule, law by law, and recreate it. You see, so we have to decide first, are we reformist or are we revolutionaries? Because if you are a reformist, you believe America can correct herself. I believe the good Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who's one of my heroes, I think he was a reformist. Frederick Douglass was a reformist. And I don't knock them for being reformists because their experience trying to reform the system has crystallized my position that only revolution will change it. Do you follow me? So the fact that Dr. King and Frederick Douglass tried to reform the system has shown me that the system can't be reformed. So I'm thankful for what they did, because now I don't have to waste my life trying to change something that can't be changed, because they already sacrificed theirs. So I could learn that reform is not possible in America, only revolution.
Do you think if Dr. King, I was going to jump into, because I want to ask you this follow-up question, because you said that you think that King was a reformist. When King says something to the nature, I think I led my people into a burning house, meaning that he pretty much had this integrationist mindset. But if he would have had he lived longer, he would have been more of a revolutionary, because it seems like he was changing slowly but surely. He was arguing for reparations. He was speaking out against the Vietnam War. He was developing the poverty program for the people. So do you think he was becoming more revolutionary, or do you still think that's more of a reformist mentality?
I believe he had evolved from reformist to revolutionary. The Dr. King of 1968 was a revolutionary. Dr. King was murdered because he was about to start an economic revolution. The breadbasket, the reason Dr. King was murdered on April the 4th of 1968 in Memphis is they had to prevent him from getting to Washington, D.C. a few days after Memphis to lead the breadbasket campaign, which was a movement of poor people of all races who were coming to D.C. to protest, not for a day, but almost permanently, because they were not going to leave until everybody had a house and a job. That's economic revolution. And what made it so revolutionary to do that is America's economic system is capitalism. Capitalism requires a large, impoverished base of workers that the corporation can exploit to work for them so that they can get rich. Capitalism functions on the exploitation of labor. So when Dr. King said, we're leaving with a house and a livable wage job, you're cutting the profits in half and you're almost demanding an economic redistribution of America's wealth. So Dr. King, although most of his career as a leader was that of a reformist, I believe the last year of his life, without question, was as an economic revolutionary.
Okay. All right. And having said that, we're going to kind of switch gears just a little bit. We're going to talk about pretty much, or I'm going to ask you something regarding the African man and the African woman. You mentioned in one of your interviews that alpha males are naturally polygamous. And if every black man, married every black woman in the world, it would still be about 2 million black women left unmarried. Having said all that, and marriage being an obsolete concept nowadays, what relationship would you recommend for the African man, woman to have amongst each other? Stay single, monogamy, polygamy, open relationship, or some other answer?
Okay. First off, just to clarify that fact, if you married every able-bodied Black man in America, not the world, but America, you would have 2 million. Yeah, you would have 2 million sisters in America who would still be without husband. So that was only for America, not the planet. Now, when we talk about marriage being obsolete, I don't think marriage is obsolete. I think our concept and construct of marriage may be obsolete. You feel me? In other words, the one man, one woman thing, that's never really been the practice or the standard anywhere in the world for any man of any race, of any culture, of any time period. So number one, we have to really reevaluate this European concept of monogamy, because nobody practices it, not even the European. Now, with that being said, Black men and Black women have to decide what comes first, our personal feelings or the future of the community. That has, because when I hear women say, I don't want to share my husband, well, nobody wants to share their husband. You see, I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to die before I'm 50. But guess what? I know that in this struggle, those are things that can happen. Not wishing it on anyone, not bringing it on myself, but there's sacrifices that have to be made when you're fighting for liberation. So when we talk about the family, we're not talking permanently. We're talking about what changes do we need to make to our approach to family so that it supports the nation building agenda. So do we need plural marriage? Not for everybody, but do we need plural marriage to some degree in order to solidify some of these single parent dysfunctional family units that are rampant across Black America? Let me say this. When I talk about polygyny, a man with more than one wife, I'm talking about responsible men, productive men. And I'm also talking about these men possibly having to marry women who are not considered the pick of the litter, if you would. See, when you say I want to be a polygynist for revolutionary reasons, that don't mean you marry Ashanti and Beyonce. You understand? That means you may marry an overweight sister with 5 kids on public assistance. You see what I'm saying? You may marry a sister, you know, who has some sort of a terminal illness, but you're doing it for the best interest of the community. A lot of brothers who are polygynists do not grasp the revolutionary and sacrificial aspect of polygyny. They're looking at it purely for selfish, personal reasons. See, you change the whole game when you say your second wife or your third wife or your fourth wife can't be the Beyonce, the Ashanti. You understand? You're going to go get one of these sisters from the projects with 5 kids and a GED. That's who you're going to get. In other words, if we're serious about plural marriage, we have to take the romanticism out of plural marriage. So brothers, understand, you're not just going to, you know, gobble up all the single, beautiful, unwed Black women. It don't work that way. A true polygynous society guarantees the poor woman with 5 kids as much right to a husband as the single female with no kids. That's polygyny.
That's deep. That's deep. And to add on to when you said we gotta stop romanticizing stuff. We ain't Roman way, you know what I'm saying? So we need to get out of romanticism. So that's a profound answer and a profound statement that you made. Okay, so shifting back to our relationships when it comes to the community and the world, do you believe that police should be banned from African communities, and should they be defunded as well?
White police should be banned from the Black community, and Black police should take their place. If there's two changes that must be made to policing in America, one is Black people can only be policed by Black people. Everyone else is too racist. Everyone else is too racist. Black people must be policed by Black people. But I haven't heard the conversation yet. I haven't heard it come from the Congressional Black Caucus. I haven't heard it come from the Urban League, the NAACP, the Black Church, our civil rights leaders, our grassroots leaders, our Black fraternities and sororities, our Masonic lodges. I have yet to hear the argument that Black people need to be policed by Black people, period. Why are you bringing racist whites into a Black community to police us? They don't even care about us, let alone protect and serve. If the job of the policeman is to protect and serve, how in the hell can how can that be carried out by a white bigot? But you know why you don't hear no conversation about race? The race, changing the race of the police, just like changing the race of the teachers that teach our children, is number one, you're putting white people out of work. This society is based on white privilege. In a society based on white privilege, you cannot inconvenience the oppressor for the victim. You cannot inconvenience the oppressor for the victim. So we're not laying off white police so Black police can get jobs just so y'all don't get killed. We're not laying off white teachers just so Black teachers can get jobs, just so your kids don't get miseducated. This is America. It is always white privilege first. So that conversation never comes up because it's going to lead to employment backlash for white folks. That's number one. And another reason why it doesn't come up, my brother, is because Black people have been bullied. We have been politically bullied into not being race first. We are made to feel bad, to feel uncomfortable, to feel like we are racist, to feel like we don't believe in God if we bring up race. So America has bullied the Negro into calling ourselves minorities, calling ourselves people of color, calling ourselves disadvantaged Americans. What's wrong with saying I'm Black and I'm only speaking for Black people? That's what I do. But if you listen to most of your celebrities and politicians, they will not say Black people have a special history, and so Black people need special provisions. You cannot lump us or clump us in with nobody else because nobody has our history, nobody shares our present, and nobody experiences the type of vitriol and hate that we get from white people. No other group in America experiences what we experience from white people. So why are we constantly allowing ourselves to be clumped in with other groups who don't like us either? And it's because we have been made to feel ashamed to bring up race. Why are you playing the race card? Excuse me? You played the race card when you brought me over here. You played the race card when I went unpaid for 243 years. You played the race card when you dehumanized me. You played the race card when you raped my grandmother. You played the race card when you Jim Crowed me, when you segregated me. You played the race card when you mass incarcerate me, when you police genocided me. We're not, first of all, nobody's playing. So there's no such thing as playing anything because our life is not a game. So we're not playing anything. But since you want to use that nomenclature, you to even call race a card, as if it is only a technique Black people throw out on the table when they don't want to take responsibility for their behavior. Not at all. It is not a race card. It is a system of racial injustice. The whole system is racist, not just the card, the table that the card is on, and the buildings that the game is being played on. The whole system is racist, and we have to stop being ashamed to do that. I'll say it another way, my brother. I should not be the only one. Scholar. I'm not speaking of brothers in the grassroots struggle, which I am, but I'm speaking of our academic elite. I'm speaking of, your doctors, your well-trained Negro class. I should not be the only one who's saying the things that I'm saying. Why am I alone? Why don't you see other scholars saying Black men need to only date Black women for the future, for the survival of our community? That's not racist. I don't hate white women. But if we want to save our people, we have to be exclusive without dating. Why am I the only one saying Black women need to stop spending $30 billion a year devastating the Black economy to look like a white woman? Why am I the only one saying that? Why am I the only one saying we need to start building independent Black communities because dependence on white power structure equals death? Marcus Garvey said, quote, a race that depends upon another for its existence sooner or later dies. A race that depends on another for its existence sooner or later dies. Mosiah also said that a leader that teaches you to depend upon a race, he said, quote, a leader that will teach you to depend upon another race is a leader that will enslave you. What is our leadership doing in America right now? Every church leader, every Sunni Muslim imam, every NAACP Urban League, every politician, they're telling us to do what? Depend on the White House, depend on Congress, depend on the Supreme Court, depend on the governor, depend on the mayor. Why are we not teaching our people self-determination? Only self-determination will save us. Dependency is extermination.
Right. A lot of our people either go into this profound question, but when it comes to having America alongside of them, it's reconciliation or independence. And a lot of us are choosing reconciliation because we're comfortable with being in a system that oppresses us. And we've been under this system for a while, so we've grown accustomed to it. And in addition to that, I also wanted to say that I had a great point that because you had made so many points and my mind was kind of catching them, and then I wanted to make a point. Right. But it was a point that you said, oh yeah, this is what I wanted to say. If let's put it in this way, in a more concrete way. If white people were to die, I'm not trying to wage that on white people, I'm making that disclaimer right now. But if they were to all die and we were to still be in this system, it will still be some Negro pens out there looking for white people, searching high and low, trying to find them and still maintain the system. So while we are under this system, it's important for us to learn what we have been taught for many decades and things of that sort, because it's hard. Like, I'm gonna reiterate that point that Dick Gregory said. It's hard to be a Black man and not have a white racist mentality. So, and even in the miseducation of the Negro, you talked about how a lot of you asked a profound question of why are the elite class of Black people speaking out against this, because they have went to school and they have been trained and they have been indoctrinated to focus on their careers and the money and the economics that they're getting, that they lose sight of racial consciousness. It goes out the window. That's why you don't see Black businesses a lot of times don't come together. We're starting to do it more, but you see it more so in white businesses, because McDonald's and Burger King and all these different other businesses, we think from the outside looking in that they're competing with one another, but really in actuality, they're actually working together to get more customers. That's why they keep the prices similar amongst each other. And we as a people, we find we gotta be in competition with one another. It's this term that I use, competitive individualism, or you use the term NIC, the head Negro in charge. So it's competitive individualism. I'm gonna do me, so you do you. And that stuff has to go. That has to be thrown out of our minds, and we have to unkink those ways of thinking. So I'm saying all that so ask you, or if you wanted to add more, but I was going to actually ask you something about your book. But if you want to add, I was going to feel free.
The issue is not that they went to college. It's not that they have the doctorate. It's not even that they're comfortable. The issue is that our academic, social, and financial elite were not socialized to be loyal to their community. Notice something. We are the only group in America whose academic, social, and financial elite do not serve our interests. Now, don't get me wrong. Every group has a bourgeoisie, and that bourgeoisie isn't necessarily committed to the best interests of their less fortunate brothers and sisters. But everybody's bourgeoisie is more functional and accountable to their less fortunate than we are. Take the white man. Even he will send his people a COVID check. Are you following me? Even he will send his people a COVID check. It ain't everything, but he still goes back to look out for them. The Mexicans, the Chinese, the Arabs, the East Indians. How often do you see homeless Mexicans? Not often. How often do you see homeless Asians? Not often. You know why you don't see them? Because they are so self-contained as a community that they will come to the aid of a brother or sister in distress. So you don't get to be homeless as a Chinese man. You don't get to be homeless as a Mexican. You don't get to be homeless as an East Indian because the community standard will not allow it. We have to teach our kids loyalty. Without loyalty, we are in trouble.
Okay. And having said that, I would like to move into to talk further about your book. In your book, The Black Parent Advocate, you mentioned that parents should consider the 504 plan or a pre-referral academic intervention plan before signing legal documents to have their children or their child psychoeducationally evaluated. With that being said, could you please explain to the people what a 504 plan is and what is a pre-referral academic intervention plan?
Yes. Because special education is a legal form of segregation. Because special education is a legal form of segregation, the government requires that certain checks and balances are put in place to make sure children are not overly segregated based on disability. Now, racial segregation is illegal in America. Disability segregation is not. So you can take a kid and separate them from other kids if you believe it's best for them, given their disability, their inability to function in a regular class. Because it is segregated, or can be, the law says you must try to solve this child's problem in the regular classroom before you consider special ed. Because special ed is a segregated placement. It's kind of extreme, right? So we want to try to solve the child's problem first before we consider special ed. So if your child has a behavior problem, the school is supposed to try to solve it in the regular class before they consider special ed. If your daughter has a reading problem, the school should try to solve it before they consider special ed. So the pre-referral academic or behavior intervention plan is just that. Before you refer my child to special ed, what interventions are we going to attempt to address this problem so they don't need special ed? You feel me? So it's a hurdle. The pre-referral intervention program is a block. It's a hurdle that they put in front of you to make sure these kids are not being referred for special ed too fast and too unnecessarily.
And you would
So
think that
every parent, if they're ever asked to give permission for the child to be tested, every parent should ask for a pre-referral academic plan or pre-referral behavior plan first. That's the first thing a Black parent should ask for. They should not sign permission. Where is the intervention plan? The law says you're supposed to try to help my child where they are before we consider special ed. Where is the plan to do that?
and you would think that the educators that are really trying to help your children, they would put that in the forefront versus trying to assign them a psychoeducational evaluation. But the reason why they're doing that is that the school, every time that a child is put through like special ed and all of that stuff, they're able to get more funding for that. So that's the reason why your children is pretty much just a dollar sign to the school. So that's the reason why most part is do that. Also, putting them on the school to prison pipeline pathway as well, because the literacy rates and the way that your child behaves is how they determine how they're going to build more prison systems and things of that sort. So that's just a part of the school prison pipeline system as well.
It all goes back to school desegregation. Had we never desegregated, we wouldn't be going through this. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
There would be no special ed. There would be no ADHD. There would be no zero tolerance. There would be no juvenile incarceration. There would be no school to prison. All of this is a result of us allowing Black children, because remember, when the Black kids were bused into the white school, the white
Mm-hmm.
parent took their kids out. So we never had school deseg. We never had school integration. We had school desegregation. Desegregation is when you remove the barriers to access. So we had school desegregation. We never had school integration. So when we sent our kids in and they took their kids out, you basically, all school desegregation did was replace Black teachers with white ones. That's all it did. The only thing school desegregation did was replace Black teachers with white teachers, which is the worst thing that could ever happen to Black children, because we sent our babies into these hostile environments with nobody to protect them. They basically went into an academic prison. That's what the white school is for the Black child. It is an academic prison. It's not a school. They're not wanted there. They're not valued there. They are tolerated.
Right.
It's an academic prison.
And that's why you coined the term, it's a prison preparation system.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay, and having said all that, switching gears a little bit, I wanted to ask you, what is the official start date of the Frederick Douglass High School and Marcus Garvey Elementary School?
All right. There is no official start date because I cannot foresee when all the renovations will be completed. It is our hope that they'll all be done by the end of this summer. So we can have our first annual Unapologetically African Family Festival and Conference. That's the hope. So we have the whole month of May, the whole month of June, the whole month of July, the whole month of August. We got 16 weeks, which is more than enough time because the HVAC renovations only take 3 weeks and the plumbing only takes 3 weeks and the electric only takes 3 weeks. But the problem is we haven't found Black tradesmen who are licensed in those areas and also reasonable, responsible. Okay, that's the issue. We're having trouble finding reasonable, not overcharging us, responsible, going to commit to the job and get it done. We've had trouble finding reasonable and responsible Black men to do the job. We've already got taken advantage of and ripped off by 2 Black contractors we've used already. So that's, to be honest with you, my brother, finding the right people is a bigger problem than raising the money. Are you following me? Following the right people is if you ask me, which is the tougher, raising that money, it's the personnel. It's finding the right people. That right now that is a bigger problem than the money, brother. Finding somebody who ain't going to rip you off and who's going to do the job, do it right, and finish it on time. That's our problem.
Yeah, it is. You know, it's tough finding real, authentic, and sincere people these days. So, you know, Dr. Umar is requesting that, you know, we get plumbers and nutritionists you want to work with. How can they reach out to you, Dr. Umar Johnson?
They can reach me Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. On Twitter and Instagram is at Dr. Umar Johnson. On Facebook is Dr. Umar Ifatunde. If anybody needs a consultation for their children, life coaching for themselves, they can email me at drumarjohnson@yahoo.com. They can also call at 8444-Dr. Umar. That's 8444-DRUMAR. They can also text message me at 215-989-9858. I am very much looking forward to getting out to Vegas. Moments and Memories, Banquet Hall, 2 o'clock to 8 o'clock, 931 West Owen Ave on Friday, May the 14th. And you guys will be my very next stop after this Thursday's stop, which will be in Nat Turner Land, Virginia, where we will be celebrating the 81st birthday of Baba Khalifa, who is the custodian and foremost historian on the life and times of Nat Turner. And so we'll be down there honoring him, giving him his roses while he's still with us. And we don't expect him to leave us anytime soon, but we want to give him his roses while he's still with us now. So I'll be down in Nat Turner Land. And anybody who's interested in coming to Virginia, to Druryville, where the Nat Turner War took place, that is our greatest revolution ever on American soil. And so we honor it twice a year, on August the 21st, the day the war started, and November the 11th, the day Nat Turner was hanged. This is a special visit because it's to honor Baba Khalifa on his birthday. So this is one of the few times I go to Nat Turner Land outside of August and outside of November. But if anybody needs flyers for that, they can text me or email me for it. Also, I'll be in Oakland the day after Vegas, Saturday the 16th, Los Angeles, Saturday the 15th, Los Angeles, Sunday the 16th, Palm Springs, Saturday the 22nd. So those are 4 straight West Coast stops, 1 in Vegas, 3 in California. And then I am in South Bend, Indiana for the Black Messiah Festival on Sunday, May 23rd. And I am in Louisville, Kentucky for the Marcus Garvey celebration on August the 14th. And I'll be in Atlanta, Georgia for Juneteenth on June the 19th. Fayetteville, North Carolina, June 4th. Statesville, North Carolina, June 6th.
You're doing a lot for the community, my brother, and we really appreciate brothers like you across the globe. So keep doing what you're doing. And with that being said, we got a few more questions I want to ask you. With that, with the next question is, what is the overall solution for the African family collectively when it comes to our struggles?
It's independence. It's independence. You have to create your own reality to insulate yourself against your enemy. It's no different than if you live in the woods and there's snakes out there, tigers and wildebeests and lions and bears and all kinds of dangerous other living communities. What do? You build a house, you build a fortress to protect yourself from them. Well, you do the same thing in the political world. Black people must build a fortress to protect ourselves from the racism that is rampant in this country, which means that you must create your own institutions to serve your own needs. As long as you go to their hospitals, they can kill you. As long as you go to their supermarkets, they can poison you. As long as your children go to their schools, they can miseducate you. As long as you wait for jobs from them, they can unemploy you. You see, so if we want to protect ourselves from any further abuse, we have to become independent. Independent systems, independent institutions. Institutions are part of the solution. Without institutions, we cannot discuss solutions. There's no solution if you want to keep sending your kids to their schools. There's no solution if you want to keep sending your mother to their hospitals. It's no solution if you want to keep depending on them for jobs. There must be institutions. If there are no institutions, there will be no solutions.
Yes, we need to decolonize the society and de-school society. I wholeheartedly definitely agree with you on that, my brother. And having all that, Black people getting involved for the cause for fighting for natural rights.
Absolutely. Wait, give me that again, Bobby. Give me that last one.
Yeah, so the next question was, how can Black people get involved for the cause of fighting for our natural human rights?
We need a group of revolutionary human rights attorneys. And I know we have some, but I'm disappointed in them because I don't see any of our human rights attorneys stepping up to formulate a case on our behalf to present to the United Nations. I wish I was an attorney. I had the chance to go to law school and I turned it down. I totally regret it. I turned it down, not because I didn't want to go, but I had not completed my internship to get my doctorate in clinical psychology. If I could live life over, I would have dropped out and I would have went right into law school. So with that being said, we need lawyers because the only people who can help us accurately present this petition to the United Nations are human rights attorneys. So we need some Black human. The problem with Black professionals is they're so comfortable and so cowardly. They're so comfortable and they're so cowardly. We need some revolutionary attorneys. We don't have the type of attorneys we used to have. They've gotten very complicit and very comfortable and very cowardly. But let me also say this, as a pretext to suing the United States in world court, as a pretext, we need to declare independence from America. We need to declare independence from America. There needs to be a declaration of Black independence. And we need to disidentify from our American citizenship, which we've never had. It's totally an artifact of the Black imagination. And we need, I'm serious, we need to put out a declaration of Black independence. We need to name ourselves. From this day forward, we are a nation within a nation. And this is how we defend ourselves. Not no ADOS, because you're still an American. Not no FBA, because you're still an American. We are Africans in America. And we represent a nation of those who are the offspring of our ancestors who were brought here to build this nation. And we need to give our nation a name so we can be politically identified. Are you following me?
Yes, sir.
And everything we do needs to be done under that name. An independent nation, not an organization, but a nation, and not no religious nation either. A nation of Africans. That is how we must move forward. It is time for us to declare our independence from the United States.
And I want to ask you these last two questions, but I kind of want to follow up with that. You have nations such as North Korea leader Kim Jong-un, I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly, and then also China calling America out on heinous crimes against Black people. Do you think that they are sincerely doing that? It's the kindest part they want to do the right thing, or you just think they're doing that to kind of, for their best own interest?
It is for their own interests. We know that no other race cares about the African. We know that. However, we will use whatever we can to advance our political agenda. You follow me? We will use whatever we can to advance our political agenda. Yes.
Okay. All right. And having said that, what's your earliest memory or encounter of becoming aware of racism?
Third grade, living in North Carolina, I experienced two events. One was the principal at the elementary school I attended took me outside, twisted my arm, and threw me up against the wall. And the other was the white man who lived across the street. I used to play with his son and daughter, and I went over there one time to look for them and didn't see them. And he came outside across the street and told my father that he didn't want me over his house no more. And I knew exactly what it was. And I was in the third grade, which means I was 7 or 8. And that's important because we don't, sometimes Black parents fail to realize our children know when they're being treated differently on account of their race. It is we who choose to keep them ignorant by trying to distract them with religious indoctrination from racism, you see. And that's where religion has often been an enemy to Black people, because religions, their job is to distract us from the racial foundation of the problems that we suffer from. And they want you to instead try to lose yourself in some doctrine of their own creation, as opposed to committing yourself to the liberation of your own people.
Right. And with that being said, the last and final question is, do you have a story about someone in your family standing up against injustice?
In my family, it would probably be me. I'm sure there's others, but I can only speak for myself. I mean, I do it all the time on behalf of Black children. You know, I probably deal with injustice, helping parents overcome injustice against their children almost every single day, you know. So fighting the mental health and education system on behalf of Black youth is my daily exercise in standing up against the power structure.
Okay. All right. Well, this pretty much concludes our interview. I also want to just, give people let people know who you are again. Dr. Umar Johnson is a doctor of clinical psychology and a certified school psychologist who is considered an expert on the education and mental health of African and African-American children. He's a former minister of education for the Honorable Marcus Garvey and UNIA-ACL. He's a descendant of the Great Abolitionist Frederick Douglass.
Not a descendant, but a kinsman. Kinsman to Frederick Douglass. Yeah, we're related. I'm not an offspring of his.
Oh, okay, kinsman to the Great Abolitionist Frederick Douglass and Bishop Alexander Wayman. Also, He's appeared on multiple platforms: The Breakfast Club, Fox Soul, Kenneth's Class, Ricky Smiley's Show, just to name a few. And he is the most requested speaker in the world, invited to every continent except for Australia. And he's also renovating his school, the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Art International Leadership Academy for Boys. So it's founded upon the revolutionary Pan-Afrikanism principles and international economics. Again, if you want to reach Dr. Umar Johnson, it's Dr. Umar Johnson at yahoo.com or at 8444 Dr. Umar. And then also, you guys got to attend this upcoming event on May 14th, Friday at Moments in Memory, where Dr. Umar Johnson will be doing a book signing for his Black Parent Advocate book, and also he will be giving a lecture on the psychoacademic war against Black boys. So this is a free event. It's from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Also, Dr. Umar Johnson, I want to ask you, what does Ifatunde mean? What does that mean?
Ifatunde is the name that was given to me from Orunmila, the divinity of destiny. And it was given to me during my very first ever traditional African divination reading. And it was given to me through Chief Olaitan, who was the chief of the Oyotunji African village in South Carolina. He gave me that, he gave me the reading. He conducted the reading through which Orunmila communicated to him, to me, through him to me, that my name should be Ifatunde Oguntade. And Ifatunde means destiny has returned. Oguntade means Ogun wears the crown. And so both Orunmila and Ogun walk with me in this life.
Wow. I said all that. Thanks again, Brother Umar, for coming to my podcast, and looking forward to meeting you. I'm forward to hearing more of your views and your lectures, and even reading the book. And I'm hoping that we definitely do this again, and your time is valuable as mine is. And with that being said, everybody out there, we'll see you soon.
You broke up a little bit there, good brother.
I was just giving my ending. I was just saying, thanks for coming on, brother. I'm sorry if you didn't hear me, but thanks for coming on, my good brother. And I hope that everybody's doing good, having a nice night, and we're definitely looking forward to meeting you. You coming out, and we're looking for more of your lectures, more of your work in the community. We're looking more involved. I'm definitely going to donate to the school as well. So encourage everybody else to donate. Could you tell them your PayPal information and your Cash App information before we get out?
Yes, sir. They can donate to the school at cash.me/$FDMG school. Again, on the Cash App, that's $FDMG school. On the PayPal, that's paypal.me/FDMG Academy. So it's FDMG school on the Cash App, FDM Academy on the PayPal. They could also mail their donation to the FDMG Academy, P.O. Box 9634, Wilmington, Delaware, 19809. That information is on my website as well, DrUmarJohnson.com, where they can also register for the Loyal Donors Program, which is an automatic monthly contribution, $50 bronze, $100 silver, $250 gold, $500 platinum, and $1,000 diamond for those who want to be regular contributors. And they can bring their donation to the Las Vegas event, the Oakland event, the Los Angeles event, the Palm Springs event, the South Bend, Indiana event. I'll be in Atlanta for Juneteenth, June 19th. They could bring it to Garvey Day in Louisville. They could bring it to Fayetteville, Statesville, anywhere I am. Brothers and sisters can bring donations to the school. We just ask that it be in the form of check or money order and payable to the FDMG Academy.
All right, having said all of that, peace and blessings to everybody out there, to all my Africans worldwide. Salute to you again, Dr. Umar. It was a pleasure having you on the platform.
I appreciate you, brother. Be safe.
All right, salute.
All right, God. Be blessed.
All right. Likewise.